Hello, welcome. Today I want to talk about something that fundamentally separates top performing sales professionals from average ones. I've spent years working with sales teams across the globe and across many industries. The question I'm most often asked is, what's the single greatest differentiator between exceptional salespeople and everyone else? And I'm going to answer that today. I'm Brian Brereton with That Business Trainer. We have the sales framework, which can help you become an elite salesperson, even if you hate sales, even if you never want to be salesy, especially if you don't want to be salesy. And if you're an introvert, all the more better to you. We can help you. So, that question, what's the single greatest differentiator between exceptional salespeople and everyone else? While there are probably many factors that contribute to success, if I had to identify just one critical difference, it would be this. How quickly do they present the solution? The most effective sales professionals understand the power of getting off that solution, moving away from the solution, whatever you want to call it. I've seen acronyms. Remove yourself from the solution, move away from, move off the solution, MOTS, GOTS, get off the solution, whatever acronym you need. We just position it as getting away from that solution. And it's a concept that I'm going to break down for you that can transform your approach to selling and dramatically improve your results. So let me start by describing what ineffective selling looks like. Less skilled salespeople tend to present too open, meaning they immediately launch into their pitch. And I don't blame them. Let me tell you about our amazing product or service. It has this feature. It'll do this. It's the best in class. It's going to solve these problems. If that sounds familiar, that approach essentially involves a lot of guessing, which we talk about a lot, no guessing. But you're guessing what might be important to the prospect and or latching onto the first thing they say and then trying to tell them about your solution. It's product centric or service if you sell a service. But it's product centric rather than client centric. And the fundamental truth is many salespeople miss out that solutions have no value. So when I say that, they have no inherent value, none whatsoever. A solution derives its value when it addresses a specific problem that the client genuinely cares about or delivers a result they highly value. Think about it this way. If your prospect isn't trying to move away from something painful or move towards something beneficial, they won't take action. And we can go deep, and we will in future videos, about which is more motivational for the customer to move away from pain or towards something that's going to help them. But when you're pitching features and benefits, or you're pitching why about your service, and we haven't really explored fully that need, they'll be nodding along, but there's not going to be much engagement and there's not going to be a lot of momentum. And people will say in sales, hey, no pain, no gain, no solution, no opportunity. And without a clear understanding of what's at stake, your solution will fail to resonate. Now, people always say, well, I don't jump to solution. But here's what top performers do differently. When I say they move off the solution, this means when you are asked about your product or service, instead of immediately diving into the answer of, yes, we do, and telling them all about it, you pivot the conversation towards understanding the prospect's situation first. And everything the client asks of you and everything that you offer a client is a solution. So if they say, we need a, or we would like to, or we want to, or we're looking for, it can be, hey, do you guys do this? Can you help us with? Those are all solution based. They are stating the end thing that they want to have you provide. That's not where we want to be. What we want to do is realize, again, solutions have no inherent value, so let's figure out the problem with them or the results they'd like to produce before we do any of that. And it all ties into that start anywhere, go everywhere, as we keep saying. Once we move Sorry, once we move off the solution, we have to know where we're going, where are we heading to. And we'll keep talking about that in subsequent videos. But for now, we want to know, how do we get off the solution? So they might say something like, yes, many organizations find our solution valuable, but that's usually because it involves specific challenges they're facing. Have you been experiencing any of those challenges in your business? That's something salespeople say that can help you get away from the solution. You could also say, hey, before I talk about what we offer, I'd love to understand what prompted your interest. What specific outcomes are you hoping to achieve? And these approaches accomplish several critical things. They position you as a consultant rather than a vendor. You're demonstrating you care more about solving the problem rather than pushing and selling your product. And it helps you gather this valuable information about their situation, which is going to allow you to tailor whatever it is you talk about to their exact needs. You won't need to blather on about everything your product can do if you can just tailor it down to what's important to them. And if you're in complex sales, especially in a high-ticket sales world or a multi-stage sale, that's critical. Lastly, it builds trust. When prospects see that you're taking the time to understand them before prescribing a solution, they're much more likely to view you as a trusted advisor. Again, trusted advisor, that pinnacle of what we want to be. It also engages the prospect in a dialogue rather than subjecting them to my pitch monologue. They become active participants in the conversation, which is what we want. We want to have a sales structured conversation. I don't really need passive recipients of my pitch. Think about how doctors operate. When you visit a physician, they don't immediately prescribe medication or they don't immediately prescribe surgery. First, they want your symptoms. Even if you walk in asking for it. Hey, doc, here's what I'd like to do. Schedule an appointment to have knee surgery. They'll say, oh, knee surgery. Yes, that's one of the things I do. Now I'm a specialist. Let's talk about these symptoms. Because even if we come around and we get to the place where the knee surgery is needed, now we're all on the same page as to why, and we can talk about what the expectations will be. Sales professionals need to adopt this same philosophy of diagnose before you prescribe. It's one of our, we don't have many as you know, rules. Diagnose before you prescribe. You're going to have to develop your questioning skills and be able to uncover the specific problems that the prospect is experiencing. You're going to have to look at the impact that those problems are having on their business. You're going to have to look at the value they place on solving those problems. And we'll get into all this when we talk about where we go once we do move off the solution. These are all places that we're able to go, which we'll cover in subsequent videos. We are going to look at the outcomes they're hoping to achieve, that maybe the time frame in which they need that solution, because we want to make sure that we're all on the same page on this and that we can actually accomplish it. Only after gathering all that information are you then properly equipped to present your solution in a way that directly ties to their stated needs. So this diagnostic approach requires discipline and patience, because it's very tempting when a prospect says or asks you, so does your company do, or does your company provide blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yes, we do. And you want to tell them all about it. Disciplined salespeople will resist that urge and instead redirect the conversation back to the prospect's world. You can say things like, hey, I appreciate your interest in our company. Of course, we work with organizations facing challenges like blah, blah, blah. But before explaining what we do, I'd just love to understand your specific situation to make sure that what we have aligns perfectly. And then you can start what challenges you're currently experiencing, etc. There's some practical ways that you can do that. If they say, tell me about your project management software, for instance, instead of immediately telling them about it and describing your features, you say, oh, I'd love to show you how our software helps organizations. Let's make sure that I'm able to focus on what's most relevant to you. Tell me about your current, what are you using now for project management software? And off you go, down the path of structured conversation, knowing there are some things you're going to need to get, and once you understand what those are, You can let the conversation flow naturally until they all surface. Pretty simple. And again, it's simple, but not easy. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Sometimes they'll say, what makes your service, I get this, what makes your sales training different from others? I don't start with what my differences are, and I don't list a bunch of differentiators or try to talk about why I'm better or why you should use us. I just simply go with, hey, great question. Different clients value different aspects of our approach depending on what they're doing. What issues are you hoping to address when you talk about sales training? Or when sales training means a lot of things to a lot of people, when you say sales training, what are you envisioning? And then let them go. And then, of course, I know where I'm going. I've got my identifiers. I've got my list in my head. I could even have it written out and show the client where I'm going. Remember, our sales framework is one of the few, if not the only, methods where you can share how you are doing a sales process with the actual client. You're not going to show them your big book of closing, are you? No, but ours you'll be able to because you're being open and honest with them. Sometimes prospects will start with, how much does your solution cost? Again, we're on product thing, or what's it going to cost me to implement this? So I'm a firm believer in let them know where we are up front. But in the case of a sales training, I don't know what they need yet. So I'm not going to ignore it, but I am going to redirect that and say, hey, cost is an important factor in decision. Give me a few minutes with you and I'll be happy to share. If they need a range, well, again, we need to talk about where they're at. And our 3-part money conversation, which we have developed over the years, takes away a lot of this anyway. And we'll cover that in a future video about how to talk about pricing. So in any of those scenarios that we're talking about, the response acknowledges the question, but then redirects the conversation to focus on the prospect situation rather than your solution. It's one of those things you have to get in your head and fight the urge. Don't talk about your product or solution. This isn't about avoiding the question either. It's about providing a more valuable contextualized answer, much like we covered in some previous videos. Moving off the solution isn't always easy. And as sales professionals, we're often passionate about our products or services. We've been trained on features and benefits. We have success stories with other clients that we want to share. And sometimes we're even under pressure to move opportunities forward quickly. But remember this, pitching prematurely is one of the surest ways to lose a sale or reduce your chances of getting that sale, or selling less than you could have sold to that client. When you present solutions to problems your prospect hasn't acknowledged with you and you haven't identified these criteria with, the impact, what's going to happen if they do it or not do it, and you don't know their priorities, you're going to create a disconnect rather than a connection. Some ways you can resist that urge: make sure you know in advance of your sales calls what it is you're looking to do. And having this sales framework under your belt allows you to easily be in that conversation and be in a good flow state with that client. Active listening, focusing on understanding rather than responding. Taking notes, which will demonstrate your engagement with any challenges. And know, if I'm taking notes, I'm signaling to the potential client that it's probably their time to talk to me. And use their own language when summarizing their needs. I mean, you want to create these mental triggers with them and with yourself. When you hear yourself talking about solutions, you need to start reminding yourself to get off that solution, move off the solution, move away from the solution, whatever words work best for you. And when you find yourself tempted to launch into your pitch and tell them all about it, just repeat this to yourself. Diagnose before prescription. I'm going to diagnose before I prescribe. I'm still in diagnostic mode. And if you're in diagnostic mode, Your solution isn't available to you. How would you know what to present as a solution if I don't know what the problem is yet? So remember, if you hear yourself talking about your solution before you've thoroughly understood the situation, pause, redirect the conversation. If a client asks you about your offering right up front, resist the temptation to dive into your product or solution or into features and benefits, etc. Instead, say something like, hey, before I could really determine if what we offer is relevant to you, let's find out more about your specific challenges. Well, let's find out more about what results you're hoping to achieve. Well, which is what I get a lot. People ask, hey, do you do sales training? Well, yes, of course. It's one of our core competencies. We do training, coaching, other things. What results are you hoping to achieve with a sales training program? Or what's going on at your place that made you wake up today and go, hey, I want to find out about sales training? Just great questions to ask to get them to open up before we talk about it. The ability to move off the solution and to diagnose before you prescribe is critical. It's truly what separates the exceptional sales professionals I've seen and I've worked with from average ones. It transforms the sales process from this one-sided pitch into a collaborative exploration of how you can genuinely add value to the potential client's business. So, thanks for listening to us today. I really hope this perspective helps you refine your approach and achieve greater success. If you like this, please give us a thumbs up. If you want more, we would love if you subscribe. Until the next video, keep selling money.